I didn't find out all at once. That would have almost been easier. Clean, sharp, final. Instead, it came in pieces. Small, almost forgettable moments that didn't feel like anything on their own until they started stacking on top of each other, until I couldn't ignore the weight of it anymore. At first, I thought I was just being insecure. Evan had always been intense. That's what I used to call it when people asked me what he was like. Passionate, driven. The kind of guy who made you feel like the only person in the room when he looked at you. The kind of guy who didn't just hold your hand. He held your entire attention without even trying. And yeah, that same intensity sometimes flipped into distance, into distraction, into something colder. But I told myself that was normal. Everyone has moods. Everyone pulls away sometimes. We'd been together for almost 2 years, living in this small apartment just outside of Denver. Nothing fancy. Thin walls, slightly crooked kitchen cabinets, a couch we got secondhand from some couple moving to Seattle, but it felt like ours. We built routines in that space. Morning coffee on the balcony, late night takeout on the floor because we never bothered buying a dining table. His hoodie permanently draped over the back of a chair like it belonged there. I thought we were building something solid. That's why the first moment didn't register as anything serious. It was a Friday night, and we were at this bar downtown. Loud, packed, the kind of place where the music sits heavy in your chest. I was halfway through my second drink when I noticed Evan talking to a girl near the bar. She was laughing at something he said, her hand lightly touching his arm. That didn't bother me, not really. Evan was friendly. People gravitated toward him. What bothered me was the way he didn't look for me. Usually, even in a crowded room, his eyes would find mine. It was almost instinctual, like a silent check-in. But that night, he didn't. Not once. I watched them for a minute longer than I should have. The way he leaned in slightly. The way she tilted her head, smiling like she already knew him. When he finally came back, he acted completely normal. Kissed my forehead, asked if I wanted another drink like nothing had happened. "Who was that?" I asked casually. "Just someone asking about the line for the bathroom," he said without hesitation. I nodded, took a sip of my drink, let it go. Because what was I supposed to do? Accuse him of something based on a feeling? That's the thing about trust. Once you decide to believe someone, you start editing reality to match that belief. So I edited. The next few weeks were fine, or at least they looked fine from the outside. We went to a friend's birthday, binge-watched some stupid reality show, argued about whether we should get a dog. Normal couple stuff. But underneath it, something felt off. Evan started working later. At first, it was 1 or 2 nights a week. Then it became almost every night. "I'm just trying to lock in this promotion," he told me, loosening his tie as he walked in past 10 p.m. "It's temporary." I wanted to be supportive, I really did. So I stayed quiet when he started bringing his phone everywhere, even to the bathroom. I stayed quiet when he began sleeping with it face down on the nightstand. I stayed quiet when his notifications stopped lighting up around me. I told myself it was stress, pressure, work. But there was this one night that stuck with me. I woke up around 2 a.m. and realized he wasn't in bed. The apartment was dark, silent except for the hum of the fridge. I got up, walked into the living room, and saw him sitting on the couch, his phone glowing in the dark. He didn't notice me at first. He was smiling. Not a small smile. Not the kind you give when you're scrolling through something mildly funny. It was soft, intimate, the kind of smile that belongs in a conversation. "Evan?" I said quietly. He flinched, actually flinched. Then he locked his phone immediately and looked up at me. "Hey, you okay?" "Yeah, I just woke up and you weren't there." "Couldn't sleep," he said, standing up too quickly. "Didn't want to wake you." There was a pause, a weird, heavy pause that felt like it stretched longer than it should have. "Who were you texting?" I asked, keeping my voice light. "No one, just emails, work stuff." "At 2 a.m.? I nodded again, because that's what I had been doing. Nodding, accepting, smoothing over the edges of things that didn't quite make sense. But something inside me shifted that night. Not completely, not enough to confront him, just enough to start paying attention. After that, I noticed everything. The way he angled his screen away from me when he texted. The sudden silence when I walked into a room while he was on a call. The way he'd get slightly irritated if I asked too many questions, like I was crossing some invisible line. "You're overthinking," he said one night when I finally brought it up. "I'm not trying to fight," I told him. "I just feel like you're somewhere else lately." "I'm right here," he replied, but he didn't look at me when he said it. And that was the problem. He was physically there, but emotionally, I didn't know anymore. I started questioning myself more than I questioned him. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe I was projecting. Maybe this is what relationships look like after the honeymoon phase fades. I didn't want to be that girlfriend, the jealous, suspicious one who creates problems where there aren't any. So I kept shrinking my doubts, folding them up and tucking them away, until the night everything cracked open. It was a Tuesday, nothing special about it. I got home earlier than usual because my meeting got canceled, and I decided to pick up dinner from this little Italian place Evan liked. I remember feeling hopeful, like maybe we just needed a good night together. No stress, no distractions. When I walked into the apartment, I immediately knew something was wrong. The air felt different. I can't explain it better than that. Evan wasn't there, which wasn't unusual anymore, but his laptop was open on the coffee table. That was unusual. He was obsessive about keeping his work stuff locked down. I set the food on the counter and walked over slowly. I wasn't planning to snoop. I swear I wasn't. But then I saw it. A message thread. Open. And my name. At first I thought it was something sweet. Maybe he'd been talking about me to someone. But then I started reading. "She thinks everything's fine." My stomach dropped. I just don't want to deal with the fallout yet. I felt like the room tilted slightly. There were more messages, dozens of them, all to the same contact. No name, just a number. "I'll figure it out. Just give me a little more time. Don't overthink it. It's not like that." Not like what? My hands were shaking as I scrolled. And then I saw the one that made everything make sense in the worst possible way. "It's different with you." I don't remember sitting down, but suddenly I was on the couch, staring at the screen like it might change if I blinked hard enough. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't stress or work or me being insecure. This was real. And the worst part wasn't even the messages themselves. It was how calm he sounded in them. No guilt, no hesitation, like I was just a situation he needed to manage, like I wasn't even a person in his life, just a complication. I don't know how long I sat there before I heard the door unlock. Evan walked in, loosening his tie, exactly like he always did. "Hey," he said, not noticing anything at first. "Smells good in here." I looked up at him, still holding his laptop, and for the first time in our entire relationship, I didn't feel love when I saw him. I felt something colder, something clearer. "You want to explain this?" I asked, my voice steady in a way that surprised even me. He froze. His eyes flicked to the screen, then back to my face, and in that split second, before he said a single word, I saw it. Not panic, not regret, calculation. He didn't rush to me, didn't try to grab the laptop or shut it down or even pretend he didn't know what I was talking about. He just stood there by the door, keys still in his hand, staring at me like he was trying to solve a problem. That's when I realized something that hurt more than anything I'd read on that screen. This wasn't new to him. Getting caught wasn't some shocking accident. It was just inconvenient. "How long have you been going through my stuff?" he asked finally, his voice calm. Too calm. I actually laughed. It came out sharp, almost unrecognizable. "That's your first question?" "I'm just saying," he shrugged, stepping further into the apartment like this was a normal conversation. "You could have asked me instead of snooping." "Snooping?" I repeated, my grip tightening on the edge of the laptop. "Evan, your messages were open. I didn't break into anything. I walked into our apartment and found out my boyfriend is..." "What exactly? Seeing someone else? Talking to someone else? Lying to me?" "It's not like that," he said immediately. There it was, the same line from the messages. "Not like what?" "Then explain it," I said, pushing the laptop slightly toward him on the table. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks exactly like that." He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling like he was the one under pressure. "You're taking it out of context." "Okay," I nodded, forcing myself to stay steady. "Give me the context." Another pause. Another calculation. "She's just someone I've been talking to," he said. "It's not serious." I felt something crack inside my chest, but I didn't let it show. You're telling her it's different with you, Evan. That doesn't mean what you think it means. Then what does it mean? He hesitated just long enough to make the answer obvious. It means you're lying, I said quietly. I'm not lying, he shot back, irritation creeping into his voice now. I just didn't think it was a big deal. A big deal. I stared at him, trying to match the person in front of me with the man I thought I knew. The one who used to pull me closer in his sleep, like even unconscious he didn't want distance between us. The one who used to text me in the middle of the day just to say he missed me.
That man wouldn't call this not a big deal. You didn't think talking to another woman behind my back wasn't a big deal? I asked. It's not like I slept with her, he said quickly. You're acting like I cheated. The word hung in the air between us. Cheated. You did cheat, I said, my voice sharper now. Maybe not physically, I don't even know anymore. But emotionally, yeah, you did. That's dramatic, he muttered. Dramatic. That word hit harder than anything else, because suddenly everything made sense. The distance, the secrecy, the way he'd been looking through me instead of at me. I wasn't losing him. He had already checked out. I'm dramatic? I repeated, standing up slowly. You're the one telling another woman it's different with her while living with me, and I'm dramatic? You're twisting it, he said, his tone defensive now. It's not like I planned for this to happen, so it just happened? I stepped closer, searching his face for something, anything that looked like remorse. You just accidentally started having an emotional relationship with someone else? He didn't answer, because there was no answer that didn't make him look exactly like what he was. Who is she? I asked. That doesn't matter. It matters to me. It shouldn't, he snapped. This isn't about her, it's about us. I let out a slow breath, shaking my head. No, Evan. This stopped being about us the second you decided to bring someone else into it. He looked frustrated now, pacing a little, like he needed movement to think. You're blowing this up way bigger than it is. I almost smiled at that. Not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable. Minimize, deflect, shift the blame. Then tell me something, I said, my voice dropping, quieter but heavier. If it's not a big deal, why didn't you tell me? That stopped him. For a second, the room went completely still. Because I knew you'd react like this, he said finally. There it was again, my fault. You're right, I nodded slowly. I would have reacted exactly like this, because this isn't okay. He exhaled, rubbing his face like he was exhausted. Look, I didn't want to hurt you, but you did, I said. I didn't think it would go this far. I swallowed hard. How far did it go, Evan? Another pause. And that's when fear started creeping in, real fear, because suddenly I wasn't sure what I was about to hear. It didn't mean anything, he said instead. That's not what I asked. It was just talking. Just talking doesn't make you smile at your phone at 2 a.m. like that, I shot back. His jaw tightened. And it definitely doesn't make you tell someone it's different with you, I added. He looked away. And that silence told me everything. Did you meet her? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper now. He didn't answer right away. Evan. Yeah, he said quietly. The word hit like a punch to the chest. How many times? It doesn't matter. It matters to me, I snapped, my control slipping for the first time. How many times? A few, he admitted. A few. I closed my eyes for a second, trying to steady myself. But it felt like the ground was shifting under me. Where? I asked, even though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Just around, he said vaguely. Around? I repeated. Like where? While you were working late? While I was here waiting for you? Don't do that, he said, his voice hardening. Don't try to make me the villain. I stared at him, disbelief washing over me. You did that all by yourself. I didn't plan this, he insisted again, like repeating it would somehow make it better. It just happened. She gets me in a way that... He stopped himself. Too late. The words were already out there. Something inside me went completely still. She gets you? I said slowly. He didn't respond, but he didn't need to, because in that moment, everything clicked into place. I wasn't just being cheated on, I was being replaced. Not officially, not yet, but emotionally, he was already halfway out the door. And I had been standing here this whole time, trying to fix something that was already broken. That's why you've been distant, I said, more to myself than to him.
That's why you stopped trying. You already found something else. It's not like that, he said again, but this time it sounded weaker, less convincing. Stop saying that, I snapped, because it is exactly like that. He didn't argue. He just stood there, looking at me like he didn't recognize the situation anymore, like it had gotten out of his control. But it wasn't out of his control. He had made every single choice that led here. I felt tears building, but I forced them back. I wasn't going to break down in front of him, not like this. So what now? I asked, my voice steady again, even though my chest felt like it was caving in. What's your plan? My plan? He echoed. Yeah, because clearly you've been thinking about this longer than I have. I need time, he said. I almost laughed again. Time, of course. You already took time, I said. You took time to lie to me, to see her, to build whatever this is behind my back. It's not that simple, he said. It is that simple, I shot back. You made a choice, over and over again. He looked frustrated, like he was cornered now. I didn't choose her over you. Then why are we even having this conversation? I asked. He didn't answer, because there was no answer that didn't expose the truth. I stood there for a long moment, staring at him, trying to feel something, anger, sadness, anything that would push me to react. But what I felt instead was something else. Clarity. Cold, sharp clarity. I walked past him without saying another word and went into the bedroom. He didn't follow me right away, which somehow made it worse. I grabbed a duffel bag from the closet and started throwing clothes into it. Not everything, just enough. Enough to leave. He appeared in the doorway a minute later, watching me. What are you doing? He asked. I didn't look at him. I'm not staying here tonight. You don't have to do that, he said quickly. We can talk about this. We just did, I replied, zipping the bag. That's not what I mean. I finally looked at him, and for the first time I saw it. Not love, not even regret, just uncertainty, like he wasn't sure how this was going to affect him. You already made your decision, I said quietly. I'm just catching up to it. He opened his mouth like he wanted to argue, but nothing came out, because deep down he knew I was right. I walked past him again, my bag slung over my shoulder, and this time he didn't try to stop me, not even a hand on my arm, not even my name, just silence. And somehow that silence hurt more than anything he could have said. I didn't cry when I left. That's the part that still feels strange when I think about it now.
I always imagined that if something like this ever happened, I'd fall apart immediately. Tears, shaking, not being able to breathe, the whole cliché. But instead I felt hollow, like everything inside me had just gone quiet all at once. I sat in my car for a few minutes before starting the engine, hands resting on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead at nothing. The parking lot lights flickered slightly, casting uneven shadows across the pavement. And for some reason I fixated on that. Like if I focused hard enough on something small and meaningless, I wouldn't have to think about what just happened, about what I had just lost. Or maybe what I had just realized I never really had. I ended up driving without a plan, just moving, letting muscle memory take over until I found myself pulling up in front of my friend Lauren's place. I haven't called her. I hadn't texted. It was instinct. She answered the door in sweats, hair pulled back, clearly not expecting anyone. The second she saw my face, her expression changed. "Hey, what's wrong?" she asked, stepping aside to let me in. And that's when it almost broke. Not completely, but enough that I felt my throat tighten, that pressure building behind my eyes. "I think Evan's cheating on me," I said, my voice flat, like I was reading it off a piece of paper. Lauren blinked, processing. "What do you mean, think?" "I saw messages," I said, dropping my bag by the door. And he admitted he's been seeing her. Her face hardened instantly. "Are you serious?" I nodded. Okay, sit down," she said, guiding me toward the couch. "Start from the beginning." So I did. I told her everything. The bar, the late nights, the phone, the messages, the conversation. Every detail, laid out piece by piece like evidence in a case I never wanted to build. And the more I talked, the more real it became, because saying it out loud stripped away all the doubt I had been clinging to. There was no room left for maybe or I'm overthinking. He had chosen someone else. Lauren listened without interrupting, her jaw tightening more and more as I went on. "That's not just cheating," she said when I finished. "That's calculated." I let out a small breath. "Yeah, you're not going back there tonight, right?" "No," I said immediately. That part at least felt clear. Good, she nodded. You can stay here as long as you need. Thanks. Silence settled between us for a moment. Heavy, but not uncomfortable. Do you know who she is? Lauren asked. I shook my head. No name, just a number. Well, that's sketchy, she muttered. Everything about this is sketchy. Lauren leaned back, crossing her arms. So what are you going to do? That question lingered in the air longer than I expected, because I didn't have an answer. Not really. I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to just go back and demand everything, every detail, the truth for once. And the other part? I stared down at my hands. The other part doesn't want to hear it, because hearing it would make it permanent. Hearing it would turn everything into something I couldn't undo, or ignore, or soften. Lauren studied me for a second. Do you still want to be with him? That question hit harder than anything else, because I didn't answer right away, and that scared me. I don't know, I said finally, my voice quieter now. I thought I did. Thought. Past tense. Lauren nodded slowly, like she understood more than I was saying. You don't have to decide tonight. I know, but my mind didn't agree. My mind was already running ahead, trying to solve something that wasn't fixable. I barely slept that night. Not because I was crying or panicking, but because my thoughts wouldn't stop looping. Every memory felt different now. The first time he told me he loved me, the weekend we spent driving up the coast, windows down, music too loud, his hand resting on my thigh like it belonged there. The night we signed the lease for the apartment, both of us laughing about how official it felt. All of it replayed in my head, but with this new, sharp edge. Like I had been watching a version of our relationship that wasn't real, or at least wasn't real for him. By morning, the numbness had shifted into something else. Not anger, not yet, just clarity. I sat at Lauren's kitchen counter, staring into a cup of coffee that had gone cold, when my phone buzzed. Evan, of course. I let it ring for a few seconds before answering. Hey, I said. Hey, he replied, his voice careful. Where are you? At Lauren's. A pause. Okay, good. I'm glad you're somewhere safe. Safe. That word almost made me laugh. I'm fine, Evan. Can we talk? He asked. We already did. I mean, really talk, he said, without everything being so heated. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the ceiling. What's there left to say? A lot, he said quickly. I didn't explain things right. Explain, right. Okay, I said after a moment. Then explain now. There was a pause on his end. I'd rather do it in person. No, I said immediately. You don't get to control how this conversation happens. That's not what I'm trying to do. Then say it, I cut him off. Whatever you think is going to make this better. Say it. Another pause, longer this time. I didn't mean for this to happen, he started. I closed my eyes briefly. Of course. She and I, it just started as talking. Work stuff, random things. It wasn't serious at first. At first, I repeated. Yeah, he admitted, but then it just kept going. And you never thought to stop it? I asked. I did, he said quickly. Every time I tried, it felt harder than it should have. Harder than it should have, because he didn't want to stop. You said she gets you, I reminded him. He exhaled. I shouldn't have said that, but you meant it. Silence. Evan? Yeah, he said quietly. That word hurt more than anything else, because it wasn't defensive this time. It was honest. So what does that mean for us? I asked. It doesn't have to mean anything, he said quickly. We can fix this. Fix. I almost smiled at that. You think this is something you can just fix? I asked. I think we can work through it, he said. People go through worse. That doesn't make this okay. I know that, he said, frustration creeping in. I'm just saying it doesn't have to end everything. I let out a slow breath, trying to keep my voice steady. Are you still talking to her? Another pause. And there it was again. That hesitation. Yeah, he admitted. Something inside me shifted again. Not shattered, not broken. Just settled. You're still talking to her, I repeated. It's not like before, he said quickly. I told her things are complicated right now. Complicated, right. Did you tell her about me? I asked. Of course I did. Did you tell her you live with me? That we've been together for 2 years? Yes. And she's still okay with this? He didn't answer right away, which was answer enough. I nodded slowly, even though he couldn't see me. Okay, I said. Okay, he echoed. Yeah, I replied, my voice calmer than I felt. I think I understand now. Understand what? I opened my eyes, staring straight ahead. That I'm not in a relationship, I said. I'm in a situation. That's not fair, he said immediately. It's accurate. You're making it sound worse than it is. I let out a small, tired breath. Evan, You're emotionally involved with someone else and still talking to her while asking me to work through this. What part of that isn't exactly what I just said? He didn't respond, because he couldn't. I need space, I said finally. I can give you that, he said quickly. Take a few days, think things through, and then we'll figure it out. We. That word felt wrong now. I'll let you know when I'm ready to talk again, I said. Okay, he replied, softer this time. I do love you. I didn't respond, because for the first time, I wasn't sure what that meant coming from him, or if it meant anything at all. I hung up without saying it back. And as I set my phone down, staring at the blank screen, I realized something that scared me more than the cheating itself. I wasn't heartbroken in the way I expected. I wasn't falling apart. I was waking up, and I didn't know yet if that was going to save me or destroy everything I thought I had. The next few days didn't explode the way I expected them to. There was no dramatic showdown, no screaming calls, no flood of messages from Evan trying to win me back. If anything, the silence stretched out in a way that felt almost intentional, like he was giving me just enough space to cool down, but not enough to fully walk away. And that alone told me more than anything he'd said. Because if he were really afraid of losing me, he wouldn't be this calm. He wouldn't be this patient. I stayed at Lauren's, drifting through her apartment like a guest in my own life. She gave me space when I needed it, but she also watched me closely, like she was waiting for me to crack. I didn't, not the way she expected. I still went to work. I still answered emails, sat through meetings, nodded when people talked to me. From the outside, nothing about me looked different, but inside, everything had shifted. It wasn't just about Evan anymore. It was about me, about how easily I had accepted things that didn't feel right. How quickly I had silenced my instincts just to keep the peace. How I had shaped myself around someone else's comfort, even when it came at the cost of my own. That realization didn't feel empowering. It felt humiliating, because it meant I had been complicit in my own heartbreak. By the third day, Evan texted again. Can we talk tonight? I stared at the message longer than I should have. Not because I didn't know what I wanted to say, but because I was realizing that whatever happened next wasn't going to be about fixing anything. It was going to be about ending something. Okay, I replied. He suggested meeting at the apartment. For a second, I hesitated. That space didn't feel like mine anymore. But then I realized something. I wasn't the one who should feel uncomfortable walking into my own home. So I agreed. When I got there that evening, the place looked exactly the same. Same couch.
Same faint smell of his cologne mixed with detergent. Same half-empty coffee mug on the counter. But it didn't feel the same. It felt staged, like a set designed to look familiar but hollow underneath. Evan was already there, sitting on the couch, elbows on his knees, staring down at his hands. He looked up when I walked in, and for a moment, something flickered across his face. Relief. Hey, he said, standing up. Hey. We stood there for a second, neither of us moving closer. That distance between us, it felt bigger than the entire apartment. Thanks for coming, he said. I needed to, I replied. He nodded, like he understood, but I could tell he didn't fully. Not yet. We sat down on opposite ends of the couch, leaving enough space between us that it felt deliberate. So, he started, rubbing his hands together. I've been thinking a lot. I'm sure you have. I mean it, he said, a little more urgently. I know I messed up. I watched him carefully. This was new. Not denial, not deflection, an admission. But even then, something felt off. You didn't just mess up, I said calmly. You made choices. Repeatedly. I know, he said, nodding, and I regret that. Regret. Another word that should have meant something, but didn't. Do you regret it because you got caught, I asked, or because you actually feel something about what you did? He hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. I regret hurting you, he said finally. That wasn't the same thing, not even close. I leaned back slightly, crossing my arms. That's not what I asked. I know, he said quietly. I don't know how to answer that in a way that doesn't make things worse. That's because the honest answer does make it worse. Silence settled between us, thick, heavy. "I didn't plan to fall into something with her," he said after a moment. "But you stayed in it," I replied. He nodded slowly. "Yeah. And you're still in it," I added. Another pause. "I haven't cut things off completely," he admitted. I let out a quiet breath, looking down for a second before meeting his eyes again. "Why?" "It's complicated." "No," I said, shaking my head. "It's not. You either want to be with her or you don't. You either want to be with me or you don't. The only thing that's complicated is you trying to keep both." His jaw tightened slightly. "That's not fair." "It's exactly fair," I said. "You're asking me to stay while you figure out your feelings for someone else." "I'm not asking you to wait around while I date someone else," he said quickly. "That's exactly what you're doing, just without saying it out loud." He opened his mouth, then closed it again, because he knew I was right. "I care about you," he said instead, like that would soften everything. "I know you do," I replied. And that was the truth. I didn't think he was heartless. I just thought he was selfish. There's a difference. "But caring about me hasn't stopped you from doing any of this," I continued. "So it's not enough." He leaned back, running a hand through his hair again, frustration building. "You're acting like I don't feel anything for you anymore." "Do you?" I asked. He looked at me, and for a second I saw something real, something conflicted. "Yes," he said. But even then, it didn't feel solid. It felt divided, and I couldn't unsee that. "I think you do," I said slowly, "but I don't think it's the same as it used to be."
"That doesn't mean it's gone," he argued. "No," I agreed, "but it means it's not enough to hold this together." He shook his head. "You're giving up too easily." I almost laughed at that. "Too easily?" I repeated. "Evan, you gave up first. You just didn't say it out loud." "That's not true." "Then prove it," I said. He blinked. "What?" "Prove it," I repeated. "Right now. Call her, end it, completely. No, it's complicated. No, I need time. Just end it." He froze. And there it was. That moment. The one that mattered more than anything else. Because this was it. No gray area, no excuses. A choice. I can't just do that like this," he said. And just like that, everything inside me settled. Not shattered, not broken, just settled into place. "Then we're done," I said quietly. His head snapped up. "What?" "You heard me." "You're seriously going to throw away 2 years over this?" he asked, disbelief creeping into his voice. I stared at him, feeling something inside me harden. "No," I said. "I'm walking away because you already did." "That's not what happened." "It is," I replied. "You just didn't have the courage to finish it." He stood up now, pacing slightly. "You're being extreme." "No," I said again, standing up too. "I'm being clear." There was a difference, and for the first time, I could feel it. "I'm not going to compete with someone else for your attention," I continued. "I'm not going to sit here while you figure out who you like more. That's not a relationship. That's me being an option." "You're not an option," he said quickly. "Then why are you still talking to her?" Silence. Again. Always silence when it mattered. "I just need more time," he said finally. I shook my head slowly. "You've had time. I didn't expect it to come to this." "That's because you thought I'd stay no matter what." That hit him. I saw it in the way his expression shifted, just slightly, because deep down, he probably did think that I would bend, adjust, wait, that I loved him enough to tolerate being second. "I'm not doing that," I said, my voice steady. "You're overreacting," he muttered. "No," I said. "I'm reacting exactly the way I should have the first time something felt off." He let out a frustrated breath, turning away for a second before looking back at me. "So that's it?" he asked. "You're just done?" I held his gaze, and for the first time since all of this started, I didn't feel confused or unsure or torn. "I'm done being treated like I don't matter," I said. The words landed heavier than I expected, because they weren't just about him. They were about me finally seeing myself clearly. He stared at me, like he was trying to figure out if I meant it, like maybe this was still something he could talk his way out of, but I didn't give him that opening. I didn't soften, didn't hesitate, and I think that's when it finally hit him, that I wasn't bluffing, that I wasn't going to stay. His expression shifted then, not to anger, not even to regret, but to something quieter, something almost uncertain, like he was only just starting to realize what this actually meant. But by then, it was already too late.